Hi, I got a lot of questions this week about a video I posted of an FM patch on the Matriarch, so I thought I'd do a more in-depth look at FM and how I developed that patch. This video is going to be long, so there's an index in the description if you want to jump around. But first, here's a short demo of the simple FM patches we'll build in this video. Okay, let's start with a single triangle oscillator. Because triangle waves are simple and have very little high frequency harmonics, especially compared to, say, a sawtooth or pulse wave, they are perfect to use in FM patches, sort of like having a clean sonic plate. Let's take a look at some FM basics first. FM simply means frequency modulation. We're not going to go super deep into definitions in this video. So in the simplest terms, we have a modulation source that affects the frequency of a carrier wave. When combined, the carrier wave's frequency is offset by the modulation wave. The result is a new waveform. We're going to use Oscillator 2 to modulate Oscillator 1. So Oscillator 1 is our carrier wave, Oscillator 2 is our modulation wave. So we're patching wave out to linear FM in. Because all the oscillators on the Matriarch are normal to the keyboard CV, it's really easy to get FM sounds that track the pitch pretty well. In other words, the modulation wave is sent the same pitch CV information as the carrier wave. If I wanted an old school traditional FM sound with a static mod wave, it turns out it's actually a little more complicated on the Matriarch. So let's try it. First, I have to go into global settings and disable local keyboard control at C#2, D#1. Hit C0. If you did it right, the keyboard won't do anything. Now patch the keyboard gate CV from the back of the Matriarch out to a mult, and from there patch it to both envelope generator trigger inputs. Now we have control over amplitude and filter envelopes, but not the pitch. Patch the keyboard pitch CV from the back to the pitch input on Oscillator 1. Now we have pitch control, but the oscillators are still normal. To keep the pitch of Oscillator 2 static, we need to send a CV offset to the pitch input. We can use an attenuator to do this, so patch the attenuator output to the pitch in on Oscillator 2. Now the attenuator controls the pitch of Oscillator 2. Okay, let's turn down Oscillator 2 and turn up Oscillator 1 and patch Oscillator 2 wave out to linear FM input on Oscillator 1. There's our old school FM patch. Cool. Okay, since we got it set up, we might as well have some fun. Patch envelope out into CV input of our attenuator. Now envelope is modulating our modulation wave. Just play around, find some nice settings. That's cool. This will work better with a lower pitch. Let's turn down the attenuator. Cool. Kind of like outer space. Of course, we can use an LFO to modulate this as well. That's a bit nuts. It's just patch an attenuator in there in between those two. Cool. Sounds kind of like a ring modulator now. Okay, that's pretty nutty. Of course, I can patch my envelope into the rate input of the LFO for even more crazy sounds. We need some delay for the full effect. Okay, that was a bit of a tangent. Let's get back to our original patch. So we've got global settings back to their default, and we've got Oscillator 2 modulating Oscillator 1. So let's experiment with frequency. And wave shapes. As mentioned, the pitch will track across the keyboard, but it's not necessarily going to be, in fact, it probably won't be, the note that you're actually playing on the keyboard. So I'm going to patch in a scope so we can have a closer look to see what's actually happening with our frequency modulation. So this is just mounted to the scope, and right now we're just hearing Oscillator 2, our modulation wave. So we've got a square wave, and let's have a listen to Oscillator 1. Nice triangle carrier wave. Okay, now I'll patch Oscillator 2 into linear FM on Oscillator 1. Pretty cool sounding and looking wave. So we're going to try something a little different. We're going to use an attenuator to modulate the pulse width of our modulation wave. By playing with the pulse width of the mod wave, we can get a lot more tonal variety without altering the frequency of the carrier wave as much as when we're adjusting the frequency alone. So, in other words, it's a little more subtle. Let's try a different octave. If we adjust the pulse width just right, we can get the carrier wave to keep its actual pitch. It's an octave lower and a more subtle FM sound, but sounds pretty cool. Could be pretty good for a hollow bass type sound. Alright, so far I've just been using a triangle wave. Why don't we see what it sounds like if we change up the wave shape of the carrier wave. Let's try pulse. Cool. See what saw sounds like. Okay, up to this point we've only used a pair of oscillators, but of course we have another pair on the Matriarch if we use a Duo-phonic mode. So let's set up oscillators 3 and 4 to match oscillators 1 and 2. I'll keep it in unison mode now just so it's easier to tune. Okay, just like before, I'll patch oscillator 4 wave out to oscillator 2 linear FM input and use an attenuator to modulate the pulse width of oscillator 4. And I'll tune it up. And let's switch to Duo-phonic. If we change the pulse width, we can get a little bit of beating. Nice. Let's put it back to triangle wave and put everything up the octave and adjust the envelope here and try to get a more glassy tone. With a shorter attack on the amp envelope, we can probably get a little bell sound. Nice. If we go into unison mode, we can probably get a kind of a chorusy sound too. Alright, one of the great things about the Matriarch's filter is that it has 3 different modes. Let's make some FM bass sounds and experiment with the serial and parallel high-pass, low-pass modes. Okay, I don't want to rely on my keyboard playing, so let's make a sequence quickly. Okay, little A-flat dominant flat 13 sound, that should do. Alright, that sounds pretty good. Let's try this serial high pass, low pass. That's pretty cool. Gives it a little bit more focus. But, of course, we can't stop there. Let's grab some cables and let's take the LFO, put it into the attenuator, and we're going to go attenuator out into cutoff 2, so it's modulating the low pass part of the filter. to sync up that LFO, take the gate out and put it into rate input. Cool. Try modulating the high pass filter. Yeah, I like the low pass. Because we managed to keep the carrier wave in tune, why not try adding the mod wave in as well? Alright, let's try modulating the filter with the staircase random wave instead of the triangle LFO. If we use the pulse width modulation knob here in the modulation section, it's not going to affect our carrier waves because they're triangles, but it will affect the mod wave, so let's give that a go. Sounds cool. Let's try the parallel filter. That's nice. Alright, for this last patch idea, I'm going to use the filter envelope generator to modulate the pulse width amount of the modulation waves. And I'll go back to Duo-phonic mode for this one. So I'm patching the envelope out of the filter envelope into an attenuator here. And grab a cable and going to patch the attenuator out into this mult up on the top here. From the mult, I'm going to go into the CV input of each attenuator. And that's pretty much it. Nice. I like that. The attenuator here is controlling the amount of pulse width modulation of our modulation waves. So with more modulation, obviously, we're going to get more pitch change, more swoopy, and that's being controlled by our filter envelope here. fun part is playing with the envelope. With sustain all the way up, the pulse width becomes too narrow to modulate the carrier wave, so no frequency modulation until we release the keys. Let's make the release longer. Super cool. Let's put the keyboard in latch mode and play around with the sustain. If we play around with the attack of the envelopes, we can get some pretty eerie pitch bends. Alright, no video about frequency modulation would be complete without some FM modulated percussion sounds, so let's get at that. Alright, let's patch gate out into rate input on our LFO, and I'll grab a little inline attenuator here, and we're going to modulate the envelope amount. Okay, I think that's about it for this video. I hope you have some fun with some frequency modulation, and thanks for watching.